Patrolling and quelling rebellions in an entire galaxy is a massive undertaking, and the Empire decided that undertaking required massive ships. In our last ship breakdown, we covered one of the smallest and most common ships in the Imperial fleet, the IPV. Today we're moving to the other end of the spectrum, talking about one of the biggest and rarest ships, the Assertor class. The Empire is known to have produced only two members of this class, the Assertor and the Wrath. Coming in at 15,000 meters, both began construction before the Battle of Yavin, and were the culmination of the Mandator line, a family of supership designs which extended back into the Galactic Republic. Assertor and Wrath each led fleets of dozens of ships, including multiple Star Destroyers, along the border of the Mid and Outer Rims to pursue Alliance fleets. The ship is essentially a giant weapons platform. There are hundreds of cannons lining the surface, including multiple turbo lasers and ion cannons, along with multiple batteries of the same style of octuple turbo laser batteries, which line the superstructure of the Imperial II class Star Destroyer. While the Executor is definitely the more iconic of the superships, the Assertor does predate it by several years because of its introduction date before the Battle of Yavin. Before being given these Imperial-era origins in-universe, the designer of the ship, Fractal Sponge, had different ideas for its origins. Fractal, whose site I'll link in the description for anyone unfamiliar with his work, has made several designs that were incorporated into the expanded universe with sourcebooks like The Essential Guide to Warfare, along with many other ships that he's made which haven't been officially brought in. Initially, Fractal intended the ship to have entered service shortly after Operation Shadowhand, which was covered in the Dark Empire comics and which took place about 11 years after the Battle of Yavin. These comics included many scenes with background ships that were quite large, so an introduction of a supership in this period would make a lot of sense. Fractal's version of the Assertor had a super laser which was dropped in the final cannon armament, and where the official descriptions put it more in line with the Mandator class and the Bellator class, Fractal's intention was to have it follow more of the Sovereign and Eclipse classes, which famously had planet-destroying superweapons. Unlike those ships though, which were meant more to connect to kind of the Sith origins of the Empire, the Assertor was meant to be more of a direct-line combat ship. The Wrath was involved in at least one Base Delta Zero, an operation which, under the Republican Empire, involved the systemic, complete destruction of all assets of production, including factories, arable land, mines, fisheries, all sentient beings and droids on a planet, as defined in the Imperial Sourcebook. So while it's not quite the same effect as a Death Star, the Assertors were able to carry out pretty destructive operations on the surface of a planet, even without the super laser that Fractal's version had. That's going to do it for today's video though. It's not a ship with a lot of information available since it only shows up in a couple sourcebooks, but I think it adds some cool background information. As usual, thanks to the rest of the Empire or Expanded team for letting me use their models. I've made the Assertor model here that you can go and see Fractal's original on his site, which has much higher poly counts, and the ISD model was made by Evil Bob the Bob. Thanks for watching. There'll be a couple more videos covering other topics first, but our next animated video will hopefully be the first battle recreation. Have a good one, and hope to see you next time.